Wait, what do you mean our flight was changed? I stared at Derek in disbelief as he casually sipped his espresso at the hotel cafe in Florence. The morning sun cast golden light through the windows, but I felt a chill run down my spine. My name is Marianne Thompson. I'm 29 years old, and I've been married to Derek for 3 years. We were supposed to be celebrating our anniversary with this dream trip to Italy, but something felt off from the moment we arrived. Derek had been acting strange, secretive about our travel arrangements, and dismissive whenever I asked about our return flight details. "Relax, babe," Derek said with that grin I used to find charming, but now made my stomach twist. "I handled everything. We fly out tomorrow instead of today. Gives us more time to explore." I pulled out my phone to check our confirmation emails, but Derek quickly grabbed my wrist. "Trust me, I've got it all sorted. Why are you always so paranoid about travel details?" The word paranoid stung. I wasn't paranoid. I was responsible. Someone had to be, since Derek treated everything like a game. But I wanted to believe this trip could salvage what felt like our increasingly distant marriage. Maybe I was overthinking things. "Fine," I said, forcing a smile. "But can you at least show me the new booking confirmation? I like to have the details in my phone." Derek's expression darkened for just a moment before the smile returned. "Stop micromanaging everything, Marianne. Can't you just enjoy the moment? We're in freaking Italy." I felt the familiar knot in my stomach, the one that appeared whenever Derek made me feel like my reasonable requests were somehow unreasonable. He had this way of making me doubt myself, of turning my practical nature into a character flaw. "You're right," I said quietly, hating how small my voice sounded. "I'm sorry. That's my girl." Derek squeezed my hand, but there was something cold in his eyes. "Now I need to run some errands this morning. Why don't you explore the Uffizi or something? I'll catch up with you later." As Derek walked away, his phone buzzed constantly. He kept glancing at it with an expression I couldn't read, excitement mixed with something that looked almost like anticipation. When I tried to see the screen, he quickly shoved the phone into his pocket. "Just work stuff," he said, but his laugh sounded forced. "You know how it is." I didn't know how it was. Derek worked in marketing for a small company in Phoenix, Arizona, and had never received urgent work calls during our previous vacations. Something was definitely wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on what. The feeling of dread settling in my chest suggested this trip was about to take a turn I wasn't prepared for. I spent the morning wandering through the Uffizi gallery alone, trying to shake off my unease. The Renaissance masterpieces should have captivated me, but I kept checking my phone for messages from Derek. By afternoon, I still hadn't heard from him. When I returned to our hotel room, I found Derek packing his suitcase with unusual efficiency. His movements were quick and purposeful, completely different from his usual laid-back approach to travel. "What's going on?" I asked, setting down my purse. "Change of plans," Derek said without looking up. "I need to head to the airport earlier than expected. Work emergency back home." My heart sank. "Earlier? But you said our flight was tomorrow. Are we both leaving early?" Derek paused, his hand stilling on his clothes. For a moment, I saw something flicker across his face. Guilt, maybe? But it vanished so quickly I wondered if I'd imagined it. "Actually, there was a mix-up with the bookings," he said, still not meeting my eyes. "My flight is tonight. Yours is tomorrow as planned. I tried to get us on the same flight, but it was completely booked." Something about his explanation felt rehearsed, like he'd practiced the words. "A mix-up? Derek, what kind of mix-up? Can't we call the airline and fix it?" "I already tried everything," he said quickly. "Look, it's just one night. You can handle one night alone in Florence, right? Think of it as a mini solo adventure." The way he said it made my skin crawl. There was an undercurrent of mockery in his voice, like he found my concern amusing. I'd seen this side of Derek before. the way he could make my legitimate worries seem silly or overdramatic. "I don't understand why we can't fly back together," I pressed. "This is supposed to be our anniversary trip." Derek finally looked at me, and I saw something cold in his expression. "God, Marianne, you're so clingy. Can't you do anything by yourself? It's one night. You'll survive." The word clingy hit me like a slap. I wasn't clingy. I was confused and hurt that my husband was apparently fine with abandoning me in a foreign country without a proper explanation. "Fine," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "If you have to go, then go." Derek's demeanor immediately brightened, like he'd gotten away with something. "That's the spirit. You'll have a great time. Maybe visit that little church you mentioned wanting to see." As I watched him zip up his suitcase, questions swirled in my mind. Why hadn't he mentioned this work emergency earlier? Why did he seem so eager to leave? And most troubling of all, why did I have the distinct feeling that Derek was lying to me about something fundamental? The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing with notifications. Still groggy, I reached for it and saw a series of messages from Derek, sent at different times throughout the night. "Made it to Phoenix. Thanks for being so understanding about the work thing. Hotel breakfast was terrible compared to that place we went to in Florence. Hope you slept well. Can't wait to hear about your last day there." And then, sent just 2 hours ago, "It was so funny. You should have seen your face when I said there was a work emergency." Classic. I sat up in bed, fully awake now, reading the message again. It was so funny. What was funny about abandoning your wife in a foreign country? My phone rang. Derek's name appeared on the screen, and I answered with shaking hands. "Morning, babe." His voice was cheerful, almost giddy. "Did you see my messages? I've been laughing about it all morning. You were so worried about the flight details, and then when I said there was a work emergency, the look on your face." "Derek," I said slowly, "what are you talking about?" "The prank. Come on, don't tell me you haven't figured it out yet. There was no work emergency. I just wanted to see if you could handle being on your own for once. You're always so dependent on having every little detail planned out." The room seemed to spin around me. "A prank? You left me in Italy as a prank?" "Exactly. And it worked perfectly. You didn't even question it when I said the flights got mixed up. I mean, I actually did change our flights, but only so I could pull this off. I've been planning it for weeks." I couldn't speak. My husband had deliberately stranded me in a foreign country, lied to my face about it, and now he was calling it entertainment. "Are you there?" Derek's voice had a hint of impatience. "Come on. You have to admit it's pretty brilliant. Wait until I tell the guys at work about this. They'll think it's hilarious." "Hilarious?" I repeated flatly. "Yeah, and the best part is, now you get to prove you're not as helpless as you always act. This is like therapy or something. You should be thanking me." I hung up without another word. For the next hour, I sat in that hotel room trying to process what had just happened. My husband had turned our anniversary trip into a cruel joke at my expense. He'd planned this betrayal for weeks, watching me worry about travel details while knowing he intended to abandon me. And somehow, in his twisted logic, this was supposed to be good for me. Derek called back 17 times that first day. I didn't answer any of them. The messages kept coming. "Don't be mad, it was just a joke. And you're being way too dramatic about this, and fine, ignore me. But you still need to come home tomorrow." I turned off my phone and tried to figure out what to do next. With my phone still turned off, I made my way to the hotel's business center to use their computer. I needed to understand exactly what Derek had done to our travel arrangements. After logging into my email, the truth became crystal clear and so much worse than I'd imagined. Derek hadn't just changed his flight, he'd canceled mine entirely. According to the airline's email confirmation, my return ticket had been canceled 3 days ago with a passenger-requested cancellation note. There was no new booking, no rescheduled flight. He'd left me completely stranded. My hands shook as I called the airline from the hotel's front desk. The representative was sympathetic, but clear. Since Derek had booked the tickets and requested the cancellation, and since we were married, it had been processed without issue. Getting a new flight back to Phoenix would cost over $2,000, money I didn't have readily available since Derek managed most of our joint finances. But this has to be some kind of mistake, I told the representative. My husband wouldn't actually cancel my ticket. I'm sorry, ma'am. But according to our records, the cancellation was deliberate. The caller specifically stated that the passenger would not be traveling as originally planned. I hung up feeling sick. This wasn't just a prank. It was calculated cruelty. Derek had trapped me in Italy with no easy way home, all for his twisted amusement. The hotel concierge, Signora Benedetti, noticed my distress when I approached the front desk. She was an elegant woman in her 50s with kind eyes and spoke perfect English. "Is everything all right, Signorina?" she asked gently. Before I could stop myself, the whole story came pouring out. Signora Benedetti listened with growing concern and anger. "Your husband, he left you here intentionally?" she said, her voice sharp with disapproval. "This is not a joke. This is very serious. You are alone in a foreign country with no return ticket." "I don't know what to do," I admitted, fighting back tears. "I need to contact the American embassy, figure out emergency travel documents, find a way to pay for a new ticket." No, Signora Benedetti said firmly. "First you breathe, then you let us help you. My nephew Federico works with tourists in difficult situations. And there is someone else, Marco. He guides tours but also helps Americans with travel problems. Very trustworthy man. He has helped many people in situations like yours." She made a quick phone call in rapid Italian, then turned back to me. "Marco will be here in 1 hour. He knows the embassy procedures, the airlines, everything. Do not worry. Italians, we understand family problems, and we help." An hour later, I was sitting in the hotel lobby when a man approached. He was probably in his early 30s, with warm brown eyes and an easy smile that immediately put me at ease. "Marianne, I'm Marco Rossi. Signora Benedetti told me about your situation. I'm very sorry this happened to you." Unlike Derek, who would have already made jokes about the situation or found a way to make it my fault, Marco's concern seemed genuine. He sat down across from me and listened as I explained the full story. "Your husband," Marco said carefully, "he planned this before you came to Italy. Apparently for weeks. He thought it would be funny to see if I could handle being on my own." Marco's expression darkened. "This is not funny. This is cruel. A husband should protect his wife, especially in a foreign country, not abandon her for entertainment." Hearing someone else validate that Derek's behavior was wrong felt like a lifeline. For so long, Derek had made me doubt my own reactions, convincing me I was too sensitive or dramatic. But Marco's straightforward condemnation of Derek's actions confirmed what my gut had been telling me. "Let's focus on practical matters first," Marco said. "Tomorrow morning we visit the embassy. Then we look at flight options. And tonight, you rest. This is very stressful, what has happened to you." The next morning, Marco picked me up at 9 a.m. sharp, carrying a small portfolio of documents and a reassuring smile. He'd researched everything overnight: embassy procedures, airline policies, even tourist assistance programs I'd never heard of. "Americans in crisis situations. This is not uncommon," he explained as we walked toward the embassy. "Usually it is lost passports or medical emergencies, but sometimes it is family problems like yours. The embassy, they have procedures." Marco's English was excellent, with just enough of an accent to remind me I was far from home. But his competence was remarkable. He'd printed out forms, made appointments, and even researched emergency travel loan options. At the embassy, Marco served as both translator and advocate. When the consular officer initially seemed dismissive of my situation, Marco stepped in with a firm but respectful explanation in rapid Italian. Suddenly, the officer's demeanor changed completely. "What did you tell him?" I asked as we waited for my emergency travel documents to be processed. "The truth," Marco said simply. "That your husband abandoned you deliberately, that you have been married 3 years, and that this is not a joke but a serious betrayal. In Italy, we understand that family problems require serious solutions." After the embassy, Marco insisted on taking me to lunch at a small trattoria tucked away from the tourist areas. For the first time in days, I found myself genuinely laughing as Marco told stories about his work as a tour guide. "You must understand," he said, gesturing with his fork. "Tourists, they come to Italy with many expectations. Some want to find romance, some want to find art, some want to find themselves. Usually they find only tourist traps and overpriced gelato." "What do you think I came here to find?" I asked. Marco considered this seriously. "I think you came to save your marriage, but maybe instead you will discover what kind of marriage is worth saving." His words hit me with unexpected force. For 3 years, I'd been trying to make things work with Derek, convincing myself that his selfishness was just immaturity, that his cruelty was just his sense of humor. But sitting across from Marco, who treated my problems with genuine concern rather than mockery, I began to see the stark difference between kindness and cruelty. That evening, Marco offered to show me real Florence, the neighborhoods where locals lived, the family restaurants that had been serving the same recipes for generations, the hidden courtyards where teenagers gathered to play guitar. "Tourism, it shows you the surface," he explained as we walked along the Oltrarno district. "But if you must stay longer than planned, at least see the heart of the city." As the sun set over the Arno River, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. Not the anxious peace of avoiding conflict with Derek, but genuine contentment. Marco asked thoughtful questions about my life back in Phoenix, listened without judgment, and shared stories about his own dreams of opening a small hotel in Tuscany. "You seem very sad about your marriage," he observed gently, as we paused on a bridge overlooking the water. "I think I've been sad for a long time," I admitted. "I just kept telling myself it would get better, that Derek would grow up, that I was asking for too much." "What were you asking for?" "Respect, I guess. Kindness. The feeling that my feelings mattered." Marco nodded. "These are not too much to ask. These are the minimum for any relationship." When Derek called again that night, 47 calls in total by now, I finally turned my phone back on. But I didn't answer. Instead, I sat on my hotel balcony, watching the stars above Florence, and thinking about what Marco had said about minimums and marriages worth saving. Over the next 5 days, Marco became my guide to more than just Florence. He showed me what it felt like to be treated with genuine care and respect. While Derek's idea of romance had been expensive restaurants where he spent most of the meal checking his phone, Marco brought me to his grandmother's favorite bakery at dawn to watch them make fresh cornetti, explaining the family history behind each recipe. She met my nonno during the war," Marco said as we shared warm pastries and coffee. "She always said the hardest times show you who people really are. When everything is difficult, you see if someone runs away or stays to help." Every morning, Marco helped me navigate the bureaucratic maze of rebooking flights, dealing with insurance claims, and managing the financial disaster Derek had created. Unlike Derek, who became impatient whenever practical matters took time, Marco approached each obstacle with calm determination. "Problems have solutions," he would say whenever I became frustrated with airline representatives or embassy paperwork. "We find the solution step by step." In the afternoons, he showed me hidden gems of the city. Artisan workshops where craftsmen had been perfecting their skills for generations, quiet gardens where locals brought their children to play, small museums tucked away in Renaissance palazzos. Each place felt like a gift, offered without expectation or agenda. "Why are you being so kind to me?" I asked one afternoon as we sat in the Boboli Gardens, watching children chase pigeons. Marco was quiet for a moment. In my country, we have a saying, "Chi trova un amico trova un tesoro." Who finds a friend finds a treasure. I think maybe we have found each other at the right time. The way he looked at me when he said it made my heart skip. There was warmth in his eyes, genuine affection that felt completely different from Derek's possessive attention. Marco's kindness came without strings attached, without the underlying expectation that I should be grateful for basic human decency. Derek's messages had become increasingly frantic. "This isn't funny anymore, Marianne. You need to come home. People are asking where you are. I told work you were extended the trip, but you can't stay there forever." Each message revealed more about Derek's true character. He wasn't worried about my safety or well-being. He was worried about appearances, about having to explain to people why his wife was still in Italy a week after he'd returned. One evening, as Marco and I shared dinner at a tiny family restaurant in Santo Spirito, he asked the question I'd been dreading. "Your husband, he expects you to return to him after this?" I set down my wine glass, my hand trembling slightly. "He thinks what he did was funny. He expects me to forgive him and move on like nothing happened. And you? What do you expect?" For the first time in my adult life, I didn't have a ready answer focused on what other people needed from me. "I don't know," I said honestly. "A week ago, I would have said I needed to go home and work on our marriage. But now I'm wondering if I've been trying to save something that was never worth saving in the first place." Marco reached across the table and gently took my hand. "Marianne, I must tell you something. These days with you, they have been the best days I have had in a very long time. I know your situation is complicated, but I needed you to know." Looking into his eyes, I saw something I'd forgotten existed. The possibility of being truly seen and valued by someone. Not as a project to fix or a target for cruel pranks, but as a person worthy of genuine love and respect. That night, I finally knew what I was going to say to Derek. The next morning, I composed my response to Derek's flood of increasingly desperate messages. My hands were steady as I typed the words that would change everything. "Thanks for this, babe. Marco has been amazing." I sent it at exactly 10 a.m. Florence time, knowing Derek would be getting ready for work in Phoenix. Then I turned off my phone and went to meet Marco for our planned visit to San Miniato al Monte. 2 hours later, when I turned my phone back on, I had 47 missed calls from Derek and a string of messages that revealed his true character more clearly than 3 years of marriage ever had. Who the hell is Marco? What's going on over there? You better not be doing what I think you're doing. This isn't funny anymore, Marianne. I'm serious. Answer your phone. You're my wife. Get on a plane and come home now. If you don't call me back in 1 hour, I'm calling the embassy myself. I can't believe you would do this to me after everything I've done for you. The messages revealed everything. Derek's possessiveness, his complete lack of self-awareness about what he'd done, and his assumption that I existed solely for his convenience and amusement. When I finally answered his 48th call, Derek's voice was shaking with rage and panic. What the fuck is going on, Marianne? Who is Marco? Are you cheating on me? Derek, I said calmly, looking out at the beautiful view of Florence from the hilltop church. Marco is the man who helped me when my husband abandoned me in a foreign country as a prank. He's been kinder to me in 1 week than you've been in 3 years. I didn't abandon you. It was a joke. You're supposed to come home, not start an affair. A joke? I felt something cold settle in my chest. You canceled my return ticket, Derek. You left me stranded with no way home and thought my panic was entertaining. That's not a joke. That's cruelty. Stop being so dramatic. It was just what? Just you getting off on having power over me? Just you enjoying my distress? I heard you laughing about it, Derek. You called it the best prank ever. There was silence on the other end. Marianne? Derek's voice had changed. becoming wheedling and desperate. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. Come home and we'll talk about it. We can work this out." Work what out? The fact that you think tormenting your wife is entertainment? The fact that you planned this betrayal for weeks while watching me worry about our trip? There's nothing to work out, Derek. You showed me exactly who you are. But what about our marriage? What about our life together? I thought about the past 3 years, the constant criticism disguised as jokes, the way Derek made me doubt my own perceptions, the exhausting work of trying to earn basic respect from someone who viewed me as a target rather than a partner. What life together? You mean the life where you mock my concerns, dismiss my feelings, and find creative ways to hurt me for your own amusement? It wasn't meant to hurt you. But it did hurt me, Derek. And when I told you it hurt, you told me I was being dramatic. Even now, you're more upset about Marco than about what you did to me. Because you're having an affair with some random Italian guy. I'm discovering what it feels like to be treated with kindness and respect. If that feels threatening to you, maybe you should ask yourself why. Derek's breathing was ragged on the other end of the line. Just come home, please. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry it went too far. I'll never do anything like this again. You're right, I said, watching Marco approach with 2 cups of coffee and that gentle smile that had become so precious to me. You'll never do anything like this again, because I won't be there to be your target. Marianne, no. You can't be serious. You're not leaving me for some guy you just met. I'm not leaving you for Marco, I said quietly. I'm leaving you for me. I hung up and turned off my phone for the last time as Derek's wife. Derek faced immediate and escalating consequences when word spread about what he'd done. His coworkers, initially expecting to hear funny stories about his brilliant prank, instead learned that he deliberately stranded his wife in a foreign country and canceled her return ticket. The HR department at his marketing firm launched an investigation when several female employees complained that Derek's behavior made them uncomfortable about his character and judgment. His reputation crumbled as friends and family realized the cruel, calculating nature of what he'd presented as harmless fun, with many people distancing themselves from someone capable of such deliberate meanness disguised as humor. The divorce proceedings were swift and decisive, with Derek's own text messages bragging about the prank serving as evidence of emotional cruelty, while his attempts to explain his actions only made him appear more callous and immature to the judge and mediators. Financial consequences followed as Derek had to cover the costs of his abandoned wife's extended stay, emergency travel arrangements, and legal fees, all while dealing with the social and professional fallout of his actions becoming widely known in their Phoenix community. 6 months later, as I watched the sun rise from the terrace of the small bed and breakfast that Marco and I had opened together in the Tuscan Hills, I reflected on how Derek's cruel prank had become the catalyst for discovering my own worth and finding genuine love. Sometimes the most painful betrayals become unexpected gifts, showing us both who we really are and what we truly deserve. And I knew that Derek's twisted joke had inadvertently led me to the authentic happiness I never knew I was missing.